The 707, a weekly half-hour program produced by KRCB, a service of NorCal Public Media. The 707 features voices and stories from your community, stories that show how little actions can have a big impact, and stories that show how we are connected to each other. I'm your host, Michelle Marques. Today we're headed to an independent bookstore in Guerneville to talk about an effort to help students and teachers that could also help a community thrive.
My name is Christie George, and I am a parent of 2 children in the Monte Rio School.
And you decided to host a book drive?
Yeah, a few years ago, I became increasingly aware of how much money teachers spend out of their pocket on school supplies for students. And I had been trying to think of a way to support the school to buy supplies that might be on the list but might not make the cut, something like that. And we started with school supplies, and then this year we have a new principal, and she suggested books. So we asked every teacher to make a wish list of books. We put those wish lists on bookshop.org, and members of the community bought up all the books on the wish lists for the entire school. For me, the beauty of the project is that any one person only spent like 10 or 20 bucks, didn't have to do too much, but could feel part of this bigger thing and could support students with some fancy new books for the school year.
Christy knew just who to talk to in West County, a bookseller who could help her not only bring books to children and teachers, but also benefit the community. Here's Michael Rex, owner of Russian River Books and Letters in Guerneville.
It was amazing because Christy thought of me and us and, knowing that it's not easy having a bookstore. So like every little bit helps. But we talked about bookshop.org, which is a wonderful nonprofit that has helped us so much. It's the same thing you would do if you order from Amazon. It's just you're ordering from a nonprofit and all that money is going back into independent bookstores. So that's how we did it. And you can build a list, almost like you would have like a bridal registry, but you have this book registry. And then what happens is the parents go online and they look at the bookstore page and the registry, and then they order the book, and then we get a 30% commission. And twice a year, they take this extra 10% and they put it into a pot, and twice a year they divvy it up to every single bookstore that's a member. And it's a big deal. I mean, it's like $1,000 like each time.
Christy says this connection to a local shop was a vital part of the book drive.
Yeah, one of the things living in a small place that I've come to realize is how interdependent we are. And so I think interdependence before I lived in Monte Rio was more theoretical or like an aspirational idea, but not necessarily something I really understood. But through this project, neighbors, many of whom didn't have children in the school, could be connected to the school by supporting them with books. And then we could also support our local bookstore to stick around and have a place for us to come. Russian River Books and Letters, like many independent bookstores, I think does something more than just sell books. It's Bear Week this week. There's an exhibition here. There's like highly curated book selection. There's events. And what Michael does with the bookstore is, much more than books. He's creating a community living room. He's always doing stuff for the community. And this was a way for us to support him and his efforts also.
We talk about third spaces. Is this a third space?
This is 100% a third space. In the winter, Michael was kind enough to let us use this space to host something called Winter Club. As you know, the winter in West County can be a little dark and dreary and rainy. And my family and I were looking for excuses to get out of the house. And we created an event series at different venues around Guerneville and Monte Rio, including the bookstore. And about 20 of us came out to the bookstore, I think on a Wednesday night, and did something that Michael called haiku handoff. And there were typewriters throughout the space. Each person got a prompt, just a word, and we wrote haikus based on that word, and then all of us read someone else's haiku out loud, and it was so sweet. Everyone brought snacks for each other, and we were home before bedtime, and it was lovely.
There are typewriters all over the shop. Some are on tables, some on the floor, some tucked into corners. Michael explains his love of the now antiquated machines that were once in every office and home.
When I finished high school and when we went off to college, we didn't have email. It was payphones, so we typed letters to each other. So I've kept all the letters between my friends and I, but it also really started because when I was 18, my mother moved to Uganda for a year, and we couldn't speak to her. Obviously, she was in 2 hours outside of Kampala in a super remote area, no electricity, so the only way we could speak with her was through letters. And after she passed away, my siblings left them all to me to have. So I have like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. Some of them are hanging up in the store. That's a huge part of it as well. So, and people need to like keep writing letters, right? It's a dying art form, and it's like there's nothing like getting a letter in the mail. You know, who prints out an email and puts it into a box? Nobody. So that's where that comes from.
Do you have a favorite typewriter?
Yeah, my favorite one, well, I can't give you a model necessarily, but I really like the manuals as opposed to the electrics because I love the sound of the key hitting the ink and then hitting the paper. Nothing like it.
That clunk.
Yeah, it's great.
I asked Christie to try one of the typewriters near us.
We've got a Blue Brother Charger 11, and I'm going to type a note maybe to my kids.
She presses on the keyboard and the type bars snap back and forth between the ribbon ink and the paper, making marks to create a letter.
I want the ding, but I don't know which button to hit. Right. Oh, yeah. Maybe I have to ask Michael how to get the ding.
Some of them ding, some of them don't, maybe.
Just be satisfied with what I've got. Seems like a good life lesson.
Yeah, it's true.
You don't always get the ding.
As Christie and I enjoy the tactile experience of the typewriters, I notice Michael doing that most analog and wonderfully human activity that every good bookseller knows how to do, helping a customer find the right book.
It's summer, do you want something that's a little lighter?
I'm getting ready to travel, so maybe something that I can on the airplane and then at nighttime, mostly. Yeah.
Let's go over here.
Okay.
All right. So this is like the book of the summer.
Okay.
Yesteryear. It's about she's an influencer, but she's a trad wife.
Okay.
But only like not really one. Like to
Yeah.
she's an influencer.
Because she's an influencer.
She gets thrown back in time,
Okay.
and now she's a trad wife, and she can't just like take selfies of her and the cow.
Okay.
She has to like milk the cow. And
Okay.
like she has to
After
live
the
with it.
customer selects her book and checks out, Michael and I plop down on the couch at the back of the shop to talk about the experience of pairing books with readers.
Yeah, so she's someone who also owns a business here called Localish, and so it's great. We all try to like support each other, and she was ordering a book for her husband who is in hospice, and it's kind of could be his final read. So it felt like, and he's such a sweet, nice guy and great part of the community. So, we are like all pretty tightly connected here. Those of us who are here full time.
And then also the nature of talking to someone and saying, how can I find a book for you, right? What is that experience like?
Yeah, so the experience is, first off, I haven't read every book in the store, right? So I sometimes recommend books that I want to read, and I'm always honest whether I've read the book or not. But I don't know, I just get a feel for who they are, kind of go from there. The last book I recommended to her was Don't Frighten the Horses, and I recommended it to everyone because it was such a good book. It's by a writer named Oliver Radcliffe, and it's a memoir about a woman who transitions to a man during the pandemic in her 40s with 5 children in Connecticut. This was like, and it was amazing. And Oliver actually came via Zoom to our book club, which was really like wonderful too. But it was just one of those books I just kept like, I'm totally sure that you're going to love this and you're going to learn something from it.
Do you think that there is something about a community, a smaller community, reading the same book together?
I do, but it's also we get this like wave of tourists as well, right? Yeah, it is nice to have this, small community where a lot of people end up reading the same things. We have a lot of book clubs here. I mean, we have one for the store, but there must be like 5 or 6 others. Yes, there's a lot of people reading the same thing. And it's fun to hear because, sometimes you're like an example of a book, I won't name it. It was our book club book, and we all just hated it. And so then you have people coming in who mention the book, and they're like, oh my gosh, I loved that book. And I'm honest, I said, I hated that book. And then I remember I was selling it to someone, or not selling it to someone, so they picked it up, and we had been talking about books, and I said, I think you should put that one down. I don't think that's I don't think you're going to, this was someone who was more into literary fiction kind of thing. So, and that's a huge part of the story is small press, translation. I want people to discover writers that they haven't seen before. And, we get a lot of people who live in places where there are only bookstores at Barnes & Noble, right? So they come in and they're like, oh, what are these weird books?
Just as each book in the store holds different stories, the next chapter of today's episode of the 707 brings a new character into the narrative. We'll hear from the principal of Monte Rio School about the impact of the book drive. This is KRCB.
KRCB is Sonoma County's NPR station, celebrating Sonoma County by featuring the voices, sounds, and culture that make our home unique. From the heartwarming tales of postcards, where residents share their perspectives.
It's been a wonderful day here at the Groundington Apple Fair.
To the Arts Brief series, shining a spotlight on the incredible youth in the arts scene.
My full name is June Zelda Grable, and I'm working with a Theater for Children on a production of Beauty and the Beast.
And Farm Tales, with the latest from local farmers, celebrating happenings on their farms and trends in California agriculture.
Our farm is called Monte Rio, which means Mountain of Good Air in Italian. We now have more than 9 acres planted of lavender, about 35,000 plants.
KRCB is a journey into Sonoma County. This is more than radio. This is the voice of your community. Your stories, your station. KRCB 104.9, Sonoma County's NPR station.
Welcome back to the 707 on KRCB. I'm your host, Michelle Marques. We're spending the day in a bookstore located on a corner of town in Guerneville, where Christie George is telling me about her book drive idea to help the students and teachers at Monte Rio School, while also creating community. Of course, all good stories take you on a journey, so we find ourselves meandering from topic to topic while lounging on the couch at the back of Russian River Books and Letters.
I come to the bookstore pretty regularly, both to get my fix of books, and Michael's been kind enough to support me in my own book making journey.
So tell me about your book.
My book is called The Emergency Was Curiosity. I call it an illustrated book report, and it was inspired by my reading of another book, which was Jenny Odell's book, How to Do Nothing. And after 3 years, I had a little more than 200 handmade pages about this one book, which seemed pretty extreme to me at the time. But now I think it was a way of immersing myself in something that has totally changed the way that I read and has changed the way that I think about books more generally. Like, a book doesn't need to be original in order to have value. My project was much more about my response to the ideas in someone else's book.
And you also have your own drawings in your book. Tell me about the act of drawing and what it means to you.
You know, the drawings in the book are pretty amateur hour, and I think I wouldn't have started drawing if I ever thought anybody would see them. The project started as something I was doing just for myself, but the more you do something, the better you get at it. And yeah, my drawings are nothing if not mine, and they delight me when I see them, even if they're, not air quote good.
My favorite thing to tell people about drawing is not that practice makes perfect, but practice makes you, right? You're going to find your style the more you practice. It'll be you.
That's one of the ideas that working on that project has gotten me so interested in, is like we all have our quirky, idiosyncratic, very specific to us interests, and so much of what is happening in the world right now, I think starting with social media but continuing with AI, is this sort of like homogenization of culture, interests, art, when the thing that's actually interesting is the like absolute specificity of what is both interesting to us and what could only come from us. And so I feel like all of the projects that I'm working on these days are really about like what is possible with either this particular person or this particular group of people or this particular place, and then not trying to scale that necessarily, but saying, actually, you could do this in your place too, and it might look a little bit different, but it's possible.
And that takes us back to the idea of the book drive that you do. So this is something that someone could replicate in their town.
Yeah, the reason that I have wanted to share it with people is that it's so replicable. Like, so many communities have an independent bookstore in their town. So many communities have people that want to support their local school, but often actually don't know how. It's not that easy. It's not that easy even when you have children in a school to know exactly what to do to be the most helpful. But especially if you don't have children in a school, it can be difficult to know how to be helpful, not get in the way, do something that's genuinely additive. And in the face of book bans and an actual reading crisis, getting books into the hands of children is something that is like both doable and really important. Develop a relationship with a school and the teachers in it. Ask them to put together wish lists that they and their students want and could use. Send out a few emails with the links to those lists. And you would be surprised how much people want to participate and how much joy and pleasure it brings them to do something for someone else.
How did you get the word out?
It was really only email. I think if those hadn't been successful, I might have done something like post them on social media or something more than that. But part of the reason why this drive feels so doable is that it didn't take anything fancy. A few emails and a few links were enough. We didn't have to create a huge social media campaign or anything like that. I think if people really wanted to go big, they could get a whole lot more people involved. But part of what I also wanted to do is something that I could pull off on my own without having to ask a ton of people for more volunteer hours, because people are stretched really thin, and I wanted them to be able to participate super easily. And so seeing a link, clicking buy on one book, it's not a fundraising campaign where you didn't know where the money was going, or that was a black box, or that was a timetable that was interminable. I wanted everything to be as easy as possible, both for the teachers participating, for Michael at the bookstore, for me to be able to do on my own, and for our community to be able to participate really easily.
Can you tell me about the books that were picked out?
Yeah, the teachers had included both classic books. It was Monte Rio's a TK through 8 school, and so the thing that I really appreciated about the total list was actually how diverse it was. One of the campaigns that's near and dear to my heart is the We Need Diverse Books campaign, and without even mentioning that to the school, the books on the wish list were wildly diverse across both genre and race, class, ethnicity of author, subjects that were covered. It was really cool. It was really inspiring to see our small community school taking seriously the mandate to make sure that all kids see themselves in the books that are in their libraries.
How are you bringing those kinds of books into your home?
We spend a lot of time at our local public library in my family. In fact, I credit our local librarian, children's librarian, Allison, with teaching my older kid, like making a real shift in his own reading, because someone with Allison's expertise was able to find a book that was so particular to him and that she knew he would like. It made a huge difference.
I caught up with Liza Eichert, principal at Monte Rio School, for final thoughts about the impact of the book drive.
One of our goals was to really diversify what was in the classrooms and help students be able to see themselves in the books. Just making sure, like, a kid has glasses. Oh, I see somebody there with glasses, that they can recognize themselves in the books. So that was the goal. The teachers did often try to also pick books. We've been rolling out our new portrait of the graduate. So a lot of them tied some of the topics to books that would fill in those gaps and be connected to the portrait of a graduate.
Are there other parents or other community members who reach out for different ways to help support the school?
Oh, definitely. Both families and, we can't say enough about our fire department and how much they help our school. So yes, I'm actually at a conference right now for superintendents around the county. And I would say that that's just a real bright light about our school in particular, is the support from the community. Last year we bought new benches and the fire department came and built them for us. Just people see that need and they jump in and support. We just had the big bake sale for the Monte Rio Variety Show. And so I would say, having worked at bigger districts in the county and just being amongst all these folks here, a real bright light is how our community steps up for one another.
Christie George hopes that others can easily duplicate this style of book drive at their schools to support students and teachers while simultaneously bolstering independent bookstores. I'm your host and producer of this program, Michelle Marques. This show is a service of NorCal Public Media. Our president and CEO is Darren Lachelle.